Hello, welcome to Leadership in Action, a series of short, timely, and relevant interviews with law firm leaders on issues important to running a successful mid-sized law firm. These podcasts are part of the Managing Partner series presented by Thomson Reuters in affiliation with the Managing Partner Forum and are hosted by John Remsen Jr., CEO of the Managing Partner Forum and President of the Remsen Group. Our guest this month is Alan Becker, founding shareholder at Becker and Polyakoff, based in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, with approximately 200 attorneys. Alan previously served as the firm's managing shareholder. In that capacity, Mr. Becker directed the firm's management, operations, business development, recruitment, and strategic planning. He continues to play an active role in the firm, including working closely with the firm's litigation, government law, and lobbying, construction, and international practice areas. Welcome, Alan and John.
Well, Colleen, thank you very much. And Alan, thank you so much for being with us this month to discuss a very important topic and an often neglected topic, and that is the succession of law firm leaders and how and when to step down from the leadership roles. So before we dig in, I'd like to ask you to tell us a little bit about your law firm, its history, and some of its priorities going forward in these changing times for law firms.
Well, sure. Gary Polyakoff and I started the firm in 1972. There was 2 lawyers and 1 secretary. Today, we've got over 400 employees and 200 professionals, and pretty much focus on 8 or 9 practices. We started out doing strictly representing community associations, condominium associations, and the like. And today that still represents about 1/3 of the practice and probably makes it the largest such practice in the country. But we're also very active in other areas like real estate, lobbying, construction law. You know, like everybody else in the business, we're looking at the changes with the disruptors going on and trying to figure out how you stay ahead of the curve, provide value, and still make a profit in the law business.
First, I'd like to congratulate you on building such a successful law firm, and it's not an easy thing to do. Tell us a little bit about your governance model and your role as a managing partner. As I understand it, you and Gary shared some leadership responsibilities. Tell us about that governance model and specifically your role as leader of the firm.
When we started out, and for a great many years, pretty much it was the 2 of us running and deciding everything. It was a pretty autocratic method of running the firm. For quite a few years, Gary was the managing shareholder, and then it shifted to me, but we always consulted and worked together because it was important, and when we dealt with the other partners and other lawyers, that we try to be on the same page. But recognizing about 10 years ago, or maybe a little bit more, that there was going to be an inevitable change of leadership, we changed the model to one with a management committee where the 2 of us remained participants until we retired from managing. But the other members, 5 other members, were elected by the equity shareholders and tried to involve other people also as practice group leaders and make it a much more representative democracy in running the law firm, because we knew that the other shareholders, if it was going to be successful after we retired, would have to first understand it and then be used to all of the issues involved in running a law firm.
And how many equity partners did you have before you went to this management committee and you and Gary start to sort of work on your succession plan?
Well, we've always been very selective on equity shareholders. I would say at the time maybe we had 18. Up until a couple of years ago, it was still only around 20, and today perhaps 24, 25. until 2 years ago, after my successor took over, we had never brought in a lateral equity shareholder. Today there are 2, so it's still not a way we expand, to a great extent. We still prefer our internal growth, our organic growth, but we've done more of that today.
How did you kind of figure out it was time for you to start stepping back? And was that difficult for you?
Well, when Gary and I, practically after we started the firm, we set a target date for our retirement at age 65. When I hit 65, they asked me to stay on and continue managing another year, and because the partners themselves didn't feel they were ready, and I did do it for one more year after that. But in the several years leading up to it, I had made sure that the leading contenders to succeed me were involved in discussions that were important for the firm, whether it was vendors or risk management. And when I felt I had the right person to succeed me for a year or 2, I had him shadow me on a lot of the managing activities that I was doing, so that it was a very natural transition for him.
And how many did you, I think it's great, first of all, that you had a target date. You wanted to step back and move and retire and do other things. So often the first generation firms don't make it past the founding partners. The statistics are in the 70-75% range. First generation firms don't survive.
It's not easy. To the rest of your last question, it really isn't easy. I would tell people in the first 6 months or so that I had a lot less stress, and that's very stressful if you're not used to it. When you're used to getting 400 emails a day and suddenly you've got 40, and you never built any hobbies because your hobby was your business.
Mm-hmm.
We actually enjoyed running our law firm.
Mm-hmm.
But I made the very conscious decision and told my successor that I will be happy to give advice when it is asked for, and that's the only time I give it. And that requires some discipline.
I'll bet it does. It's got to be hard to let go of the firm you founded, you built, and obviously have strong feelings for it and how it should be run. It's got to be challenging.
Yeah, it's not the easiest thing, and you have to recognize that if it's going to succeed, if it's going to last well beyond you being there, that you have to, first of all, bring people along to do it. And secondly, once they have that opportunity, I explained to Gary Pyakoff once, and Gary had a little difficulty with it.
Gary, your co-founding partner.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him once, just think of it like your children. At a certain point, they're going to make their own mistakes, and you have to let them, because that's the only way they're going to grow and become adults. You can't avoid for them every difficulty they'll encounter. And so I know that while I'm there to assist with some of the practices where they want me to, I'm there to give advice where it's asked for. I really believe that I should never insert myself where it's not sought out. And I make sure I don't.
I think that's important. And I work with so many smaller and mid-sized law firms where the founding partners don't let go. They can't step back, and they end up running their firms into the ground. And I've seen it where they'll drive off any kind of up-and-comer that threatens their power, their control, their whatever it is, their book of business, and they'll run them off. And I had a client just a year and a half ago where brilliant lawyers, the founding partners, but they just couldn't let go, and all the young talent starts jumping ship because the founding partners aren't willing to share, won't let go, and who's left? but those founding partners who are aging on and folks who have nowhere to jump. And I think that's real hard for a firm to kind of pull itself out of that situation.
Well, it's probably almost impossible, and you have to decide what you wanted, and we decided early on that we wanted an institution and one that would be built on our abilities and our reputation, but would survive us and be a lasting institution. And if that's something you want, then you have to take the steps necessary to bring other people along and then to let them excel on their own.
How do we respond to the managing partner who says, I'm calling the shots here, and I'm going to leave under my terms and conditions, not my young partners? How do we do that?
I think it goes back to what you were saying, about that firm a few minutes ago. Yes, you can do that, but you are going to lose your best talent because people won't give an open-ended lifetime commitment. They want to be able to build something and have opportunities for themselves, and it's just a choice you make. If you want something that'll survive past you, and believe me, there are benefits to the founder to having an institution that survives.
Sure.
If that's something that's important to you, then you have to learn to let go. And if it's not important and you want to hold on till the bitter end, there will be a bitter end.
How long did the transition, before you started, you talked about identifying future leaders, having them mirror you, shadow you. How long did you sort of plan that transition? How many years?
Probably planned it for 7 or so years, but actually began the involvement and implementation maybe 3 years ahead of the transition.
Yeah, that's the number I hear my consulting brethren often put forth. About 3 years, and put together a very deliberate plan to effect that transition in terms of ownership and governance and client relationships and the rest of it. It's not something you do in 6 months.
No, you can't do it overnight, and it requires some planning and forethought. Of course, you're fortunate, as we were, if there is somebody who is capable of taking over.
How did you identify those future leaders?
Well, it's not that hard when you're with people and working side by side with them for a number of years, and you see who has the qualities of leadership. I actually think the term managing partner is very misplaced. We don't really need managing partners. Management is about budgets and hiring and operations. What we need is leadership partners, and qualities of leadership, the ability to set a vision for the firm, communicate that vision, and motivate people to pursue it are the qualities we need in managing partners, and it's often missing in lawyers. So it's something that when it's there, you see it.
Well, I think you are spot on, and we presented a leadership academy in Chicago last week and had about 25 managing partners in training, and they'd been sent by their law firms from around the country, mostly leaders of mid-sized law firms, 25 to, say, 150 lawyers. And we spent a lot of time. It was a day-and-a-half-long workshop, and they did psychological profiles to learn a little bit about themselves and their strengths and their leadership style. We spent a lot of time talking about the difference between leadership and management. Mm-hmm. And most of them didn't have a clear understanding of the difference. But I think they left the workshop knowing the difference. And I think you're spot on. It's about leadership, not management, and managing partner is probably not a good title. And I like CEO myself, Chief Executive Officer.
Well, that's what you are, and the fact that so many lawyers don't recognize the difference. I gave a talk to a group not too long ago and I asked them, and these are people from all big firms all over the country, and I asked, how are the managing partners and the management committee members at your firms selected? And you wouldn't be surprised at the answers. The biggest rainmaker, the longest tenure, the most popular, absolutely none of the things that really matter when it comes to leading.
That's absolutely true, and I see that as just what you described all the time. And those people may or may not be effective department heads, practice group leaders, what have you. But you and I share a lot of the same philosophies on law firm leadership. We're getting close to the end here, and I just wanted to ask what advice you might offer to a managing partner about leadership succession.
Start earlier than you think you have to.
Mm-hmm.
Identify as many capable people as you have to. Give them the opportunity to spend time on non-billing areas that will develop their skills in understanding and operating the law business and in soft skills like leadership. Provide a gradual transition, and when it's time for the transition to be complete, step back and let them do it.
Excellent advice. And I remember you and I chatted a few months ago, and I was having an issue with a client, and what do we do to encourage that founding partner to leave who's not ready to leave yet? And your advice was great. You said, tell them to get a hobby. Thank you so much for your time to participate in our podcast series, and we really appreciate your guidance, your advice, and hopefully some managing partners will hear this and perhaps affect a good transition at their firms. Colleen, let me kick it back to you, and thanks for hosting us today.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of the Managing Partner Series, Leadership in Action. For more information and resources, visit legalsolutions.com/managing partner.